Chase a $2 million retirement number that was never real, and here is what it costs you. You panic sell when the market drops. You take on risk you cannot afford at exactly the wrong age. Or you give up on saving altogether because the gap looks impossible to close. Not because your savings are too small, because the number itself, the fake seven-figure benchmark, was never real to begin with. $87,000. That is the real median amount sitting in a retirement account for the American households that have one at all, not 800,000, not a million, the number many retirement calculators quietly assume when you type in your age. And that is the generous version of the picture, because it does not even count the households that have saved next to nothing. Almost nobody is behind some hidden target the rest of the country hit. The target itself was never realistic for nearly everyone chasing it. But believing it is real costs you actual decisions, not just peace of mind. A bad 5 years chasing a return you cannot afford does permanent damage to the income you will live on for the rest of retirement. That is the real villain in this video, not your account balance. The fake seven-figure benchmark that was never true to begin with. I am your guide to the real numbers behind your retirement, not the ones a calculator quietly assumes. In the next 16 minutes, where the real median sits by age, what fewer than 8 households out of every 100 ever reach, what your real number actually pays you every month, and the moves that still close the gap after 60. Quick favor before we get into the real numbers. Tap like and subscribe now, so the next breakdown like this one finds you automatically. Part 1. The number the calculators hide. Start with what the Federal Reserve found in its 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances, the government's own detailed household wealth study. Among American families who have a retirement account at all, the median balance climbs with age. Roughly $19,000 for households under 35, $45,000 for ages 35 to 44, $115,000 for 45 to 54, $185,000 for 55 to 64. It peaks at $200,000 for ages 65 to 74, then drops to $130,000 for 75 and older, mostly because that generation is spending down what it built, not falling behind. Here is the number that matters more. That $200,000 is the median for one specific age band among households that already have a retirement account. Blend every age group with a retirement account together, and the overall median lands at that $87,000 from the opening, pulled down by all the younger, still building households in the mix. And that number still leaves out every household that has not opened a retirement account at all. And as you are about to see in a moment, a huge share of this country has saved next to nothing, whether they have an account open or not. Vanguard's own How America Saves report tells a similar story from a narrower angle. Across the 401k plans it administers directly, the median balance for a worker 65 and older sits just above $100,000. Lower than the Federal Reserve figure, because it only counts one account type instead of a full household's IRAS and old 401x combined. Different measuring stick. Same conclusion. The research group EBRI tracks how that money is actually spread across the country, and it puts real numbers on the thing most people only carry privately. Well over half of American households have less than $10,000 saved for retirement in any account. Roughly a fifth sits somewhere between $10,000 and $100,000. About 14% land between $100,000 and $500,000. And the group everyone quietly assumes is normal, $500,000 or more, is fewer than 8 households out of every 100. One of the moves that closes this gap fastest is not even sitting in that account. It is sitting in most people's biggest asset, and almost nobody counts it correctly. More on that in Part 4. Part 2. Where the fake number comes from. So where does the 7-figure benchmark in your head actually come from? Financial media needs a round number people will click on. Calculators default to a comfortable, aspirational retirement. $80,000 a year, drawn from a $2 million portfolio, because that produces a compelling number to sell a service against, not because it describes a typical household. By EBRI's own count, only a sliver of households, under 2%, have ever reached $2 million in retirement accounts specifically. The benchmark almost everyone measures against quietly is a number fewer than 2 in 100 people will ever hold. That gap does real damage, and it is not just a feeling. Take a household sitting on $150,000 who believes the real target is $2 million. That household is not 5% behind, or even 50% behind. By the fake math, it looks 92% short, close enough to hopeless that some people stop opening the statement entirely. Others do the opposite. They move that $150,000 into something aggressive, trying to close a gap that was never actually that wide, at exactly the age when a bad 5-year stretch does the most permanent damage to a portfolio with no decades left to recover. Both reactions come from measuring against a number that was never realistic for most households in the first place, not from the real gap, which, as you just saw, is a fraction of that size. Part 3. What the real median actually pays. Here is what the real number, not the fantasy one, actually produces for a single retiree household. Take the peak median of $200,000 for a household aged 65 to 74. Using the standard 4% guideline, that portfolio generates about $8,000 a year. Add the Social Security Administration's own average retirement benefit for 2026, which sits at roughly $24,850 a year after this year's cost of living adjustment. Total income, a little under $33,000 a year before any tax comes out. Now run the all-household median of $87,000 through the same math. 4% of that is roughly $3,500 a year. Add the same Social Security check, and total income lands around $28,300 a year. That is the real floor for a very large share of this country. Not a catastrophe. Millions of households live full retirements on numbers in this range, especially once a mortgage is paid off. But it is a completely different planning conversation than the one built around a $2 million, $80,000 a year fantasy. If your real number looks closer to this range than to the 7-figure headline, you are not the outlier. You are the median. And the median household still has real, specific moves available, starting right now. Part 4. The levers that actually move the number after 60. This is the part the fake benchmark hides from you. The moves that matter most do not require starting over at 25. They are concentrated right where you are standing. Lever 1. The super catch-up contribution. Under the Secure 2.0 rules, workers aged 60 to 63 get a bigger catch-up window than everyone else. In 2026, that is up to $11,250 in catch-up money on top of the standard 401k limit, $35,750 total into the account in a single year, if the household can point that much at it. That extra room disappears once you turn 64, though the regular catch-up for everyone 50 and up keeps going after that, and most people past 50 have never heard the number exists. Lever 2. Delaying Social Security. For anyone born in 1960 or later, full retirement age is 67. Claim at 62, and the check is reduced for life. Wait until 70 instead, and the monthly benefit comes in more than 75% higher than the age 62 check for the rest of your life, with cost of living increases applied on top of the larger base going forward. This does not require a bigger portfolio to pull off. A bridge of a few years' spending from whatever savings exist, or continued part-time income, is usually enough to cover the gap while the benefit grows underneath you. Lever 3. Every additional year in the workforce can replace a low or zero earning year inside the 35 years Social Security uses to calculate your check. A late career raise, or even modest part-time income after 65, can lift that benefit permanently, not just delay when it starts. Lever 4. The house. For a great many households over 50, the equity sitting in the home is worth more than everything in the retirement account we have been discussing this entire video. Moving to a smaller, cheaper home does three things at once. It releases that trapped equity into savings that can actually be invested. It cuts the monthly mortgage, tax, insurance, and maintenance costs that determine how large a portfolio needs to be in the first place, and it can shrink the gap itself, not just stretch what is already there. This decision gets physically and emotionally harder every year it is delayed. Making the move, while healthy and capable, is part of the strategy, not a footnote to it. The real benchmark was never a single dollar figure everyone is supposed to hit by the same birthday. It is whether guaranteed income, Social Security, any pension, plus a realistic draw from whatever has actually been saved, covers what the household actually spends. That number is different for every household, and it is calculable this week, not someday. Here is the one move worth making this week. Sit down, pull the real account balances, and run this version of the floor math. The Social Security estimate, plus 4% of whatever has been saved. Compare that total to what actually gets spent in a year. That gap, not some stranger's seven-figure number, is the only figure that should be keeping you up at night. This is not financial advice and not legal advice either. It is real numbers, so you can have a better conversation with a fiduciary who knows your whole household picture before you make any decision based on any of it. If this changed how you see your own number, tap like, subscribe, and drop the word floor in the comments if you want the video that walks through exactly how to build your own guaranteed income floor, line by line. See you in the next one.